What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be showing you 3 different transition ideas for your fan edits on Funimate, and this is without Pro. But before we get started, on my last video, if you stayed till the end, I had you comment a yellow heart with your Funimate username on it, and these are the people that did that, so shout out to you guys. Shout out to you, Barbie.zlp_, Violet PEWDS, RXSII, Blau WTJE. And one more thing before we get started, someone requested if I could show all my editing apps that I use. So I've got Lightroom, that's where I basically edit all my photos, PixArt, I don't really use VideoStar, but I still have VideoStar. I have Prequel, InShot, Visco, and that's basically all. So yeah, that's that, and now let's get started. Now let's go to Funimate, and I will be using my second account, Aryan Kyle, since this video is about not having Pro but can and still make good fan edits or transitions. So I'm going to start off with a blank white background, and for my format I will be using Square. Let's go to transition idea number 1. So right away before we start editing, let's go to PixArt. I will be using Niley Devora. I don't know if I'm saying that right, let me know, as my example for these transitions. So I got these photos from her Instagram. All I'm doing over here is basically adding a shadow to make it pop whenever we add it to our transition. I'm going to adjust blur to 100 as well as opacity. Right next to shadow is border, and we are going to add a white border. Then click apply and click next. Save and download your edit, but before we go back to Funimate, we are going to edit another photo. I'm going to crop this out so it's in a rectangle shape. Then I clicked apply and I added a shadow. I'm going to adjust the position so the shadow is not off to the side. So I'm going to have horizontal and vertical as 0, as you can see over here. And for adjust, I'm going to have it both at 100. And I'm also going to add a border. Now that we're back on Funimate, click on that plus sign to add an image. I picked this image of her, and now we're going to click on motion tile. And for pattern, I'm going to pick the middle one, which is divided by 4, and for speed, I'm going to have it at 0. So now you have this endless 9x9 look. Next, we're going to click on animate and custom, then go to scale. To start it off, you're going to zoom it in so it looks like it's one picture. And for our second point or second diamond, we're going to zoom it out so it looks like a 9x9. Let's go to position now, and we are going to add a point or a diamond in the middle somewhere over here. And for our second diamond, you just have to drag the picture so it kind of looks like this. Now let's add a second image. And we are going to do the same thing as we did on the first image. Now we're going to connect that one to the first one, so we're kind of making a loop. Add your first diamond, and for our second diamond, you're going to drag it down. So far you have this. Go to the plus sign, and we are going to add the image that we edited from PixArt, which is this one. We are going to set it off to the side, and we are going to duplicate it so we can have one to the other side as well. Now that they're in place, let's go to animate and custom. Go to position and add our first starting point or your first diamond, and for our second diamond, we're going to drag it out so it's kind of in the middle, And for our keyframe, we are going to use this bent one. Now that we're done with that, let's go do the other one as well. That's done, so let's add our last image, which is this black and white one, and we're going to place it basically right in the middle, kind of tilted. Then click on animate and custom, and for scale, we're going to start it off as small. That's our starting point, and for our second diamond, we're going to make it big. And for our keyframe, we are going to use that bent one again. Before we are done, we are going to add text, so we can add a line. And you want to set it off to the side. Then we are going to click on text again, and we are going to add a circle or a dot added to the line. And we are going to add it just like this. So basically the purpose of these two is to make it look like they're controlling the 9x9s. So for the circle, we are going to go to position and add our first point, and for our second point, we are going to drag it down. So yeah, that's that, and that is how you make that transition. Let's move on to the second transition idea. And again, before we start, we are going back to PixArt. So when you get to this part, pick a transparent background since we are going to be adding a sticker. When you're on sticker, look up logo, and you should be able to find all these logos, and I found this Louis Vuitton logo. I'm going to add a shadow to this one to make it more pop in the transition. In position, I'm going to have it at 0 in horizontal, and for vertical, I'm kind of going to have it down. So the shadow looks like this, and for adjust, I'm going to have it both. Or no, just blur it 100 and opacity at 75. Once you're done with that, click next, save it, and download it to your gallery or photos. Let's go back to Funimate. Then pick out your first image. For our intro, we are going to go to custom, and we are going to click on scale. For our first point or first diamond, we are going to have it really large and big. And for our second point, we are going to have it back to normal. And for our keyframes, I'm going to use this half C one. Then when you're done with that, go to rotate. For our first point, we are going to kind of have it tilted, and for our second point, we are going to have it back to normal. For our keyframe, we are going to use half C again. When you're done with that, let's add our second image, which is the same image, but this time we are going to use mask. Then when you're on mask, click on that person icon, and it should be able to crop out the person for you. Now this next part is kind of time consuming, but try your best to fit it onto the picture. You want it to be perfectly aligned. Well, not really perfect, but close to perfectly aligned, so it doesn't look sloppy. Now that I have it aligned, I'm going to add my sticker that I got from PixArt. As you can see over here, it's in front of the masked image, so we want it behind, so I dragged it down, but we also want it to be in front of the big background image. So over here off to the side, as you can see, it should be in between those two images. Click on animate and custom, and then in position we are going to add our first starting point, and as for our second starting point, we are going to drag it up. Then for our keyframe, we are going to use that half C. When you're done with that, we are going to duplicate it for the other logos. It saves you so much time and work. When you're done with that, let's add a square shaped. We're going to add it in the beginning and let's make it fill the whole page. Then click on animate, then opacity, and as our starting point we are going to have it at 100, and for our second one we're going to have it at 0. And that is how you do that transition. On to our last and third transition. So let's add our first image, and I'm just going to use the image that we edited from PixArt from our first transition. So we are going to place it in the middle like this. Then let's go to animate and custom, then go to scale. For our first starting point we are going to have it as this, zoomed in. And for our second starting point we are going to zoom it back out to the way it was. For our keyframe we are going to use this half C one, so it should look like this. Then let's go to rotate, and for our first starting point, which we will place right here, we will kind of have it tilted just like this. Then let's go to position and add our first starting point, which will be placed right here. And for our second starting point, we are going to drag it to the left bottom corner. For our keyframes, we will use this bent one. Then let's add our second image, which is the same thing. Then try your best to make it the same size as the first one. Let's go to rotate and add our first starting point. And for our second starting point, we will tilt it the opposite way as the first one, so they look like an X. For our keyframe, we will use this bent one. When you're done with that, let's go to position and add our first starting point. And for our second starting point, we are going to drag that down off to the bottom right corner. And for our keyframe, we will use that bent one. So far it should look like this. Then the next thing we're going to add is her name. Well, the shortened version of her name, which is Nai. So I went to PixArt and I clicked on text, typed in Nai, and the font that I will be using is called 6 Caps. It's somewhere over here. It's kind of off back. Here it is. Never mind, it's called 6 Caps, not 6 Gaps. Then after I've picked my font, I'm going to add a shadow. I'm done with that, so I saved it, but I went back to get a sticker of Nai. I just looked up Nelly Devora, it's spelled like that. Then I found this one. Then I added a border. Let's go back to Funimate and let's add the worded image. As you can see, it's in front of those two first images and I want it behind, so I dragged it down. Then I went to animate and custom, and on position I added my first point, and for my second point I dragged it up. For my keyframe I used the half C. So now let's add this sticker that we got from PixArt. And as you can see over here again, it's in front of those two first images, but it's also in front of the Nai worded. We don't want it behind the name, but in front of the name, but we also want it behind the first two images. So if you look on the side, that sticker should be placed just like that. Then the next thing we're going to add is a square shape. We want to place it right there and make it fill the whole page. Then click on animate, custom, and opacity. And for our first point, we want it at 100%, and for our second point, we want it at 0. So that is how you do that effect. So that is it for today's video. I really hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please leave a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. Also, I'm going to road 10k subs, so whenever I reach 10k, I will be having a Funimate contest with Funimate merch prizes. And if you haven't seen the prizes, these are the prizes. As you guys saw, I did have one of the prizes to be a hydro flask, and I did paint the hydro flask with the Funimate logo. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this contest of mine. Moving on, if you want a shout out on my next video, comment a star with your Funimate username by it. And yeah, you guys have a good day or night, wherever you are.